Hi guys, my name is Ankit, and in this video I'll be talking about population growth as an economic problem of India. This video will serve as a summation of Indian economic policy project for the third trimester to Professor Somen Majumdar at Indian Institute of Management, Tiruchirappalli. So a lot of people actually believe that population growth, if it can be deemed as a problem, it has to be a social problem rather than an economic problem. But I would like to beg to differ to that particular notion. Why and how? This is something which I'll be talking about in the coming minutes. So before we move ahead, let's have a look at the three most populated countries of the world. China, with a population of around 1.4 billion, leads the pack. India very closely follows it by a population of around 1.3 billion, and that is an official estimate. USA, the third most populated country of the world, has a population of around 0.35 billion. So there is a huge difference between the top two countries and the countries following them. One interesting factor to notice is the population growth rate. Till 2015, the world population was growing at a rate of 1.182%. China was growing at a rate of 0.5%, whereas USA was growing at a rate of 0.8%. Looking at India, India was growing at around 1.2%, which already given a huge population at its bay, compared to China and USA is huge. So how come China has been able to control its population growth rate? It is largely because of the stringent policies they have introduced, including one child per family and heavy fines in case of violation of these policies and the rules. So coming back to my opening statement that population growth, if it has to be deemed as a problem, it has to be an economic problem rather than a social problem. So I'll be discussing the current major economic problems which India is facing and how population has had a role in those particular problems. First major problem which I'll be talking about is unemployment in India. Unemployment and its derivatives like hidden unemployment and disguised unemployment can be termed as a byproduct of overpopulation. Having a look at the GDP, the contribution from IT sector to GDP of India is around 55 to 60%, but when you look at the employment rate, it is far less than encouraging. India is still heavily reliant on agricultural sector for employment. But when you look at the marginal productivity, you can actually understand that practices like hidden and disguised unemployment are prevalent in that particular sector. So if you remove those particular people, it actually won't have any effect on the productivity of that particular sector. So where do you put those people whom you have removed from agricultural and other sectors, let's say? If you look at the IT industry, they can't absorb them because of the lack of the technical knowledge. And looking at say manufacturing sector, you need skills, right? So in that particular sector also, these people won't be able to work and the industry won't be able to absorb them. So India is still heavily reliant on foreign countries for the supply of machinery, capital goods and even technical knowledge. What is ironical is that India exports raw materials and they import manufactured goods. So this is largely because of the lack of the technical base in the country. One more thing is that import of capital goods involves heavy cost due to the higher prices, and going by the current market exchange rate, it is safe to say that India is incurring huge costs, and if India is able to have a technical base in the country itself, then the cost can be reduced and the money which is saved they can be channeled through to other areas to develop core competencies within the nation. Also, India depends a lot on imports, which makes our economy dependable on others, and it actually affects the terms of the trade. And India thus actually is not very much independent when you want to dictate terms. Again, the role of overpopulation comes into play when you are talking about this particular problem. The reason is to establish a technical know-about. When you look at a population of around 1.3 billion, you can actually argue that to establish a technical know-about should actually become very easy. But when you look at the demands of the country on the whole, so even if you come up with, let's say, 20% improvement on the technical base, it is very much sure that it won't serve the purpose of India to an extent to which India would actually ideally want. So this is largely because of you're not able to, as in we are not able to create a subsample where we can identify a particular set of people, or say a particular set of cities where we can actually invest heavily and improve the skills and the technical know-about of the people. So this brings us to the third major problem of India, that is the deficiency of per capita capital. Indian economy still suffers from the problem of deficiency of per capital. People are still very poor to save and invest to make for a rapid economic development. Again, this can be traced back to overpopulation and unemployment. As a result, the per capita availability of capital like steel and energy is extremely low in India when you compare it with the other developed countries. This can actually become a major setback for India in its efforts to become a developed country by the mid 2020s. The last problem which I'll be talking about is the inadequate revenue through taxes in India. Although when you look at the rates at the other nations, India is having a very high tax rate. It is largely because of the economic imbalance between the people of India. The saying that rich gets richer and poor gets poorer is actually very much true when you look at the case of India. So, to support the people who are poor and below the poverty line, the government has to come up with schemes and regular measures so that they can support the people and they are able to help them in their existence. So, to cut down on the cost and the other expenses, it takes a major hit on the subsidies which government provides to the industries or the companies. So that is where the growth of the economy takes a hit, and it has a direct impact on the growth of India as a country when you compare it with the other developed and developing countries. So that was all about the problems in India, which had a direct relation or a correlationship with the overpopulation. So talking about the solutions, one thing is for sure that India cannot adopt the policies of China. For example, let's say one child per family. That is largely because the Chinese government has been successful to do that because of the communist nature of the government, because they can actually come up with any kind of rule and the population has to just follow that. Whereas in a democracy like India with huge diversity, such kind of a law being passed can actually create a huge hue and cry in the country. So the only solution to this particular problem is to educate the people and create awareness among them regarding the demerits of the population explosion. So by letting them know that this population explosion will become one of the curses for the upcoming generation. Add to that the trends in the market, the trends in the economy, the trends in the job sector. So it will actually become very difficult for the upcoming generations to lead a decent living. So population control, population explosion needs to be taken care of, and let's hope that India is able to control its population growth rate. Thank you.